Welcome back to another video. It's Bradford City v Hartlepool match reaction. Let me know your thoughts on the game in the comments down below, and do your player ratings in the community tab. There's loads of players who just weren't good enough today. There were loads of players who were absolutely terrible today, and then there's a certain man called Andy Cook who has bailed us out of the games that we should have lost. I mean, we weren't. The second half we rescued it. You know, that could have been embarrassing, that first half. We were absolutely dreadful. And fair play to Hartlepool, they came and actually played. And they dominated us in that first half. That was probably one of the worst halves I've seen this season. And then the second half, we didn't show up. I mean, second half we showed up. First half we didn't show up, but it can't take, you know, a half of football to start actually playing and waking up. It's just not good enough. We wanted to be winning. Well, we wanted to be winning the league this season, really, but you know the expectation were try and get in the autos and the playoffs quite comfortably. Playoffs, if we get playoffs, it'll only be comfortably because of the teams behind us are so bad. I mean, Mansfield are currently losing. They're 5 points away from us, and they're on a terrible run. Sutton, I mean, you know, they shouldn't be anywhere near us. I mean, I don't like saying stuff like that because everyone's there on merit, but you know, let's be honest, that we shouldn't be competing with Sutton United. You know, and then the other teams, they just can't get a run together. So if we don't go up this season or even get in the playoffs, then that is a massive bottle job. The games we've won recently, maybe apart from Doncaster and Gillingham, I mean that Colchester win, that's again pulling the wool over our eyes. We weren't good enough in that game. We were terrible. Walsall terrible. Newport terrible. Hartlepool even worse because that's an home game in that first half. And some of those players, dare I say, didn't even put any effort in. And if they didn't, or if they did put as much effort in as they can, then they shouldn't be getting selected because Mark Hughes is so stubborn that he won't change the team. He's picked the same team for 6 games in a row, not even taking into account that most of those players look absolutely knackered. And if they're not, then they're not putting the effort in. And some of them don't even deserve to be playing. I mean, players like Liam Rideout and Richie Smallwood, I mean, I don't mind Smallwood, but at home you've got to be playing a Ryan East or someone who's got a bit of creativity. But I think that was the worst performance, especially in the first half, I've seen of Richie Smallwood. He did not track back. He was stood still most of the time, and that our left side were getting absolutely dominated. They were swarming it. They were taking advantage of Smallwood and Rideout, who just didn't get out to them. You know, I thought Stubbs was okay, but that left side was so poor and it looked so weak. I think it was Dan Kemp, their winger. He tore them apart. But for that goal, Dan Kemp's goal, I think he's got 6 goals in 8 now, or 6 goals in 9. He's been a good loanee from them. Made a good impact. His goal, everyone will say, or maybe not City fans, but I'm sure Hartlepool fans, or if a neutral were there, they'd be going, that's a fantastic goal. You know, that were like Messi. But we made him look like Messi, and that's what we do all the bloody time. We make bang average players look so good. I mean, Stubbs, I think it was, slipped or went to dive in and made him look. He made Stubbs look like a clown. No one put a tackle in. Then he had too much time and space. And same for Callum Cook's goal. I didn't know it was him who scored it, but it's typical, isn't it, that a City player always scores. But he had so much time and space in the penalty box. And again, I think it was Kemp who cut inside. Too much time and space, and that was the story of the game down that left side. And the either didn't put any effort in, like I say, or they just were knackered, and Mark Hughes shouldn't be picking players who are knackered, especially when we have the biggest squad in the league. And apparently Mark Hughes is supposed to be having a headache because of all the players he has. It's giving us a headache. I mean, I've got a headache. You know, watching that football is mental torture sometimes. We should be steamrolling teams like Hartlepool, not because of the status in where they are with whatever, you know, the type of football club they are. They're in the relegation zone. They haven't won in I can't remember how many games they haven't won, but they won a pretty bad run. I know they've just got a new manager, John Askey, but that we've got to be beating teams like Hartlepool and Newport and Walsall, and we're just not good enough. And we will not be going up this season. We won't unless we go and beat Carlisle and go on a really good run from now to the end of the season. I'm not confident, because for me to be confident, we'd have to beat Carlisle, Sutton, Swindon, Leyton Orient and Northampton. We'd have to beat those teams for me, because I would not be confident in the playoffs, and that's what we're getting. Teams like Carlisle, Stevenage, Northampton, Orient, forget about them. But them teams are going on a good run now, and if this is our bad run, 3 draws to 3 mediocre teams in the league, then that's fine. But we've got to really step it up now, because we've just drawn 3 crucial games in our season that we should be winning, and the performances were terrible as well. Like I say, the second half were much improved. We had 18 shots in the game, 7 on target. We had slightly more possession. Second half were much better, but it shouldn't be taking a reaction from the first half. Fans booing or Mark Hughes going in and throwing a tantrum to them and trying to get a reaction out of them, because it ain't good enough to be drawing to Hartlepool and making some of their players look like world beaters when they're 23rd in the league with 31 points and have conceded 66 goals this season. They're down there for a reason, and we aren't. We're just terrible defensively as well. I want to try and do this video as quickly as possible. So into the player ratings, Harry Lewis, 2. You know, he didn't do too much wrong. Kemp's goal wasn't his fault, and Callum Cook had, I think there was too much power on it, so the goals weren't necessarily his fault. But maybe communication was. I think a couple of times some of the defenders didn't know what they were doing. A few miscommunications brought down, and we conceded 2 goals. I'll give him a 2, bordering on a 3. Matty Platt, it's got to be a 2. I like Platt, you know, but today he was pretty poor. I mean, I like him. I think he wins every duel, but he's just very indecisive on the ball. And maybe he could have put a tackle in for their goal, that came from. So I don't think he had the best game, and distribution, was poor. But I do like him when crosses come into a box. He wins every header, and one-on-one ground duels as well. He's got quite good strength for a centre back, and they were coming up against a pretty big unit of a striker as well. So I don't think he had a terrible game, but a 2 for my Platt. And Stubbs gets a 2 as well. Very similar reasons. He got absolutely sat down for the Kemp goal. I think that's something that I criticise Stubbs for. He does seem a bit too erratic in one-on-one situations. He will dive in a bit, and he made himself look stupid doing that. So yeah, I don't think he had the best game. Stubbs, 2 for him. Rideout gets a 1. I mean, that was one of the worst I've seen some performances, but that were bad from like Liam Rideout. Didn't put a tackle in. Were constantly holding Sam Stubbs' hand, so close to him, so tight to him. Didn't get out to any players. Left so much time and space to Kemp or ever. I think their right back, was it Sterry? You know, give him so much time and space as well. I admit Smallwood, Costello, anyone else you know down that side didn't track back or help him out, but he was so poor, and he cannot be playing on Tuesday night. Bowler or Critchlow has got to be taking his place. His legs have gone. He can't track back, and he cannot put a tackle in. And going forward, he'll pass it backwards, he'll pass it sideways, because he hasn't got the ability to 1, cross it, or 2, take it round a player. And maybe that's because we're not playing with wingers. That could help him out, and that's something we've got to do. We've got to change to playing wingers, because it's too defensive. The Diamond, especially playing 3 defensive midfielders at home, we're not progressive. But he was very poor, and he gets a 1 for me. Halliday gets a 3. I don't think he did all wrong, Halliday. I thought going forward he was decent. A few crosses didn't really go his way. And defensively, I thought he was alright. None of the goals came down his side, and that right side were much stronger than the left. I wouldn't have started anyone on that left side. I wouldn't have started Ryder, I wouldn't have started Smallwood, and I certainly wouldn't have started Darragh Costello. Into a midfield, then Clayton gets a 4 for me. I thought he was pretty good, Clayton, and when he came off, that midfield got overrun a bit, because he wins every ball. He knows where the ball's going to be, he intercepts it. One problem that people will have with Clayton is he got dispossessed of the ball too many times. But I think that's because he's playing with 2 midfielders, Smallwood and Gilliard, who don't really want the ball and go hiding a bit, and he didn't have a lot of options. And when you're not playing with wingers, that's not an immediate option. And I think, you know, he's quite decisive on the ball, but when you've got no options, you make errors and you lose the ball more. But in terms of winning the ball back, you know, he won the ball back pretty much every time, every one-on-one situation. I thought it was pretty good. Clayton, one of the better performances. Walker gets a 4 because of the work rate and energy that he showed in that front 3, pressing a lot, harassing the defenders, and I thought he had a pretty good game in terms of that aspect of it. But in terms of actually on the ball, I thought he was pretty poor, and I think he knew that. But it looked like he was playing through an injury. A few times he went down, with an injury, and recently I think he's been a bit tired or fatigued or look knackered, and I think we shouldn't have been playing him today. I would have dropped him. I thought last couple of games he hasn't been too great. He hasn't had a good game for a while, and I think that's because he's fatigued and tired. That comes with playing the same team for 6 games in a row when it's Saturday, Tuesday. I don't know why you do it. It baffles me. But yeah, he gets 4 because of the work rate and the pressing, because he won the ball back a lot in that final third, because he was one of the only ones who seemed to want to put a tackle in that midfield. Smallwood gets a 1. I like Smallwood, and I think he has been a scapegoat at times. But today he was poor, and he looked either tired, not putting effort in. It was one of the two, and if he ain't putting effort in, that's terrible as a captain. I think he was shouting at Halliday at one point at the halfway line, and that first half was terrible, one of the worst I've seen. But that second half, he massively improved, and that maybe tests his character. So well done. But that first half was terrible, and still in the second half at times, whether it's effort levels or because he's tired. He just he wasn't good enough today. Gilead gets a 3 because I think defensively he was poor as well. He was doing what Smallwood did, but on the ball, I thought he was really strong going down that right flank, getting a few crosses in. I thought he was, pretty bright going forward, but defensively again, didn't track back enough. And that's something that can't be levelled with Gilead this season, and that's got to be tired. He must be tired, playing Saturday, Tuesday every week. We've got to freshen it up for Tuesday. Costello gets 1. Again, I like Costello, but is he good enough? That's the question. Lost the ball too many times, had a couple of chances, one at the back post, where he didn't. He knows what I like him because he puts quite a bit of effort in, tracks back quite a bit. But what he hasn't got is that ability, that technical ability. He's got. If you're on Football Manager, he gets a 1 or a 0. He's terrible technically on the ball. But in terms of mentally, he knows what he wants to do, and he gets into good positions, holds defenders off well, and like I say, he had a couple of good chances because he's in the right areas, and that's probably why Hughes likes him, or Vincent Kompany, I think he quite likes him as well, and that's why, because he's got the mental side to it, but his abilities he's got none, and that's the big problem with Costello. He's got the effort levels, he tries, and he's got the mental side to it. He knows what he wants, but he's just technically he ain't got it. And he were poor today, and he had a couple of chances that he should have put away. Andy Cook gets 5 because Andy Cook could not have done anything to give us that draw. He couldn't have done anything else. I don't think he had any other chances. He had one where he got it to feet, he spanned the defender and thrashed it wide. He creates chances himself, and where would we be without him? I don't think we'd be in a relegation zone fight because I think we'd just have enough. But we'd be down there. We're a one-man team, Andy Cook FC, and he's the reason why we're 6th, and we've got a lot to thank Andy Cook for. If we do halt this season, which I don't think we will, but it'd be all down to that man. That second goal was an unbelievable strike. I think he was trying it a couple of times before, but the ball didn't quite reach him, and then he just hooks it right into the bottom corner. What a fantastic finish. And that man, he's getting us points and saving us this season. And the only other man who you could say saved us a few points is Harry Lewis, but I think Andy Cook he's just honestly unbelievable, like nothing you've seen before, and he's doing it all on his own, which is impressive. So massive 2 points dropped, and that's for the 3rd time in a row. Should have beat Walsall, should have beat Newport, and we definitely should be beating a team that is sat in 23rd. And we're dropping big points, and we're just fading away. The promotion's fading away, and if teams behind us start getting a 1 together, Barrow look like the only team who could get a 1 together. We're in trouble for playoffs. So we've got to win on Tuesday against Carlisle, and then obviously Crews got called off, which is a bit of a farce in itself. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do your player ratings in the community tab, and it's another abysmal performance from City and another big 2 points dropped.